Thank you so much, Joey, and the whole alumni committee. It's great to be back. It is always a proud feeling to be back on campus, and the way you guys have designed that we can contribute to our alma mater, it is really, really nice and proud moment for me. I would like to thank you for that kind introduction. It's a it is a pleasure that alumni committee is interacting with the us in this manner, and I would like to thank you for that effort. But before we dive into the details, or maybe the slides that I have created, let me start with a thought, which is basically it currently takes around 10 years and more than $1.5 billion to bring a single drug to the market. 10 years and $1.4 billion. But it would be really hard for all of you guys to know that most of the drugs fail along the way. And now imagine a technology that could cut that timeline in half. And at the same time, it can, I would say, unlock billions in productivity and even reshape how we engage with our customers, how we engage with our patients, how we engage with the SCPs. SCPs are basically the doctors. That is a promise of Gen AI, but that is a challenge too, because uh, all of it is not possible without some serious thought into the strategy that we should create as the business team. And that's what I'm excited with you all of you guys to explore today. So as I was saying, billions of dollars in productivity. So let me start with a number: 60 to $110 billion. That is the value that generative AI is projected to create in the pharmaceutical industry alone. So to give you context to these numbers, pharma industry as a whole is valued around 1.6 to 1.7 trillion dollars at this point of time. And now when we think of pharma, we often, as I had already said, that we often imagine decades long of drug discovery, clinical trials that would not yield any result for the pharma company. And it basically stretches for years, I would say. And along with it, there is always the massive cost associated with any of the operation that we are performing. A drug that will never see market and billions of dollars are being poured into that particular drug. But today, we stand at an inflection point, I would say. Generative AI is not just another buzzword for the pharma industry now. It is fundamentally changing how we discover drugs and how we interact, or maybe interact with our patients, with our doctors, how we manufacture, how we run the trials, how we basically discover a particular protein, I would say, that can cure a disease. And in this talk, I'll walk you through how the pharma industry is moving from the hype of the AI, but to the reality. What can actually happen with generative AI? We'll basically explore not just the opportunities, but the operational challenges. There are many roadblocks, as you can see that there are scaling challenges mentioned. Uh, but at this point of time, I would like to discuss first the multiple aspects of pharma industry value chain that will be affected. We will discuss each one of these in greater detail. Uh, what is the present way of doing things, and what is the future that looks like with Gen AI. And by scaling uh, all of these operations, there would be some challenges with respect to the integration. Is basically, it is not a plug and play. Gen AI is not a plug and play. Second is the governance issue. Even if we manage to do the plug and play thing with a lot of effort, there is always a requirement of the human oversight because of the common problem that you guys would know, hallucination. Yeah. So, and the third point, is the workforce ready for the transformation that is going to take place? So, by the end of this presentation, uh, at this point of time, you must be thinking that this is all, uh, I would say, a complex processes, and what I should take away from this particular talk. I would hope that I leave you with one clear takeaway. Generative AI could be to pharma what electricity was to manufacturing, but only if we know how to harness it. And we should be at the center of all of these operations because Gen AI can deviate from its own, I would say, goal. So let's begin. First and foremost, this is a really important slide for all of us because we should know that what Gen AI can and cannot do. There is always the hype that comes with Gen AI, but the reality seems a bit different. First is always the notion that Gen AI can alone deliver all the value. No, that is not the case. This is a disruptive movement for entire field of artificial intelligence, not just the Gen AI alone. And I would say traditional AI tools are there, and they are promoting stakeholder engagement at this point of time. They are helping us to diagnose the diseases. They will continue to capture value, but the scale on which we will capture those values will be entirely different with respect to use of Gen AI. Gen AI alone cannot, I would say, deliver the results. There is always the case that people tend to think that it is an easy plug and play. That is not the case. It actually requires a proper data architecture that should be in place before we even start of thinking with respect to Gen AI. Companies, I guess, at this point of time will need to build an intelligence layer in between that can understand, I would say, the molecular level data, the clinical operations, and even the patient level data. At this point of time, there is a multi-pronged approach that should be employed to basically create any value with respect to Gen AI. Third is always the point of selecting the right LLM is a key differentiator. So, no, that is not the case. You guys must have heard that Claude is the best model for code review or maybe writing the codes. Or if you want to do some analysis, ChatGPT 4 or maybe 5 is the one to go with. But one should understand that Gen AI models account for only, let's say, 15% of a typical project effort. And this is particularly true in pharmaceutical industry, given the complexity of the data and the uniqueness of the regulations, I would say. Fourth is the case of Gen AI with instantly affect every part of the organization. Uh, as is the case with any digital transformation, uh, the leaders must apply an end-to-end lens to the whole processes and categorize the use cases uh, where the Gen AI application would be most apt start in the starting point, and which actually makes sense for the overall business goals. And a strategic roadmap should actually be in place before we even start thinking of employing any Gen AI tools. Now that we have understood that what Gen AI can and cannot do, these are just some use cases that I was discussing. But now we will be diving deep into what sort of aspects are there in the pharma value chain that will be affected. So at this point of time, you guys must understand that generative AI is not a single use tool as of now. It can handle text, data, it can handle, I would say, images, it can generate videos for us. So it is not a single use tool. It is basically reshaping every aspect of the pharma value chain. Uh, and a personal example I would like to take over here is that I twisted my knee, and I had my scans done. But before I went to see the doctor with the scan, I actually uploaded it on ChatGPT, and the kind of diagnosis that it actually provided, even the doctor was surprised to know that a ChatGPT can do that. So it is basically transforming n number of pharma value chain, starting from, let's say, the drug discovery that we are going to talk about, and even a patient bedside. And as we have already discussed that there are multiple aspects of the pharma value chain that will be affected, uh, we will discuss only some of those in this particular talk. We will discuss what is their current state, and what would the future look like with respect to Gen AI. So let's start with the commercial aspect. Commercial side of things can be like anything with respect to the strategies or maybe the marketing that we do to get a drug into the market. Second is the research and early discovery, which is basically identifying the molecules that will basically treat a particular disease, right? Third is clinical development. Clinical development is basically testing the drug's efficacy. Uh, that is what happened with the vaccines, right? You guys would know about it. Uh, there was the case of efficacy being tested in multiple phases of COVID-19 vaccine, right? So that is part of clinical development. Fourth is the operations part, which is the manufacturing, the quality control, or I would say the supply chain processes that are required to get a drug to the market, to get a drug to scale. Um Lastly, there is the case of medical affairs. Medical affairs is any scientific communication that happens with the stakeholders. Stakeholders, as in the patients, stakeholders can be MSLs, stakeholders can be, let's say, the doctors, or uh, regulatory bodies like FDA, all of these things. Now that we understand what all of these aspects mean, let's move on to the juicier parts. The use cases within, I would say, these value chains. First is obviously the commercial side of things. So let's discuss the first use case. On the commercial side of things, the most I would say the impacted use case would be the personalized content creation. At this point of time, it is completely outsourced to the agencies, wherein creative uh, decisions are being taken by the agencies only. But with Gen AI, we can basically take all of it in house, because we can standardize and streamline the whole process of any content generation. And the innovation part will be left with us. And while we are discussing about the speed to market, I can remember one another use case, which is the medical regulatory and legal case, which is known as the MRL in pharma industry. The MRL process is a tedious one, because there are a whole lot of regulations at play, and a single human cannot even think of doing any of it without a proper data architecture already in place. But with Gen AI, since it can take a whole lot of data, process it, and tell uh, the scientific leaders what sort of molecules actually work, what sort of regulatory, I would say, rules and regulations, it does it validate or not, all sort of things. And basically, Gen AI can streamline the whole process and bring unmatchable speed to this whole MRL thing. I can discuss maybe more and more on the commercial side. We gather insights with respect to taking a drug to the market. We basically generate business intelligence for the marketing team. But that is a very regular thing being done across industry at this point of time. So that is not a big thing. The big thing is that Gen AI can also help pharma companies in increasing the adherence. Adherence is basically how long a particular patient is taking the medicine consistently. So patients, what happens is that patients stop taking medication with if they do not have a certain knowledge base. So basically, due to lack of knowledge or maybe some complex insurance processes, in US, everything is backed by insurance, right? So if the insurance lapses for a particular patient, they basically stop taking a drug. And it is mostly because of the complex rules and regulation with respect to insurance. And that complexity can be reduced by Gen AI. We can basically employ a chatbot in which patient will basically go and ask what sort of regulations are at play at this point of time, and will my insurance lapse or maybe something like that. And all of these will be simplified for that particular patient, and hence we can say that this will be a game changer with respect to the adherence that is being followed in the whole pharma industry. I would like to discuss one such use case in greater detail, with which is with respect to the medical reps. You guys would understand what a medical rep is, right? So medical representatives are not just the most important, I would say, they are the key aspect of the business for any pharma company. But what happens is that reps face an enormous amount of data before any of their call with any particular SCP. SCP is basically healthcare professional, which is doctor. What happens is they have to deal with the performance data. They have to deal with the SCP preference. What has been the engagement with respect to the live engagement or maybe even the digital engagement that has happened before. Then there is the case of actionable insights that we as data science team provide them with. And lastly, there is the case of unique SAP attributes. They all need to study this before any of the call that they are going to make with respect to the doctors. So this happy sales rep would immediately become sad, I would say. So here comes the co-pilot, which will basically help. Uh, this solution is not just a simple chatbot, but it will actually give all of the necessary information before a particular call to that particular medical sales rep. But it will also answer additional questions with whatever kind of questions that can come into the rep's mind, I would say. So at this point of time, the future is not just how skilled they are with respect to gathering all the data, but the future is simple. Are they asking the right questions or not? So any amount of time that is being saved with respect to all of these analysis, all of these interaction with respect to SCPs, they will directly impact the revenue, because more number of SCPs, more amount of I would say the drugs being marketed to them, the more amount of revenue will it have. So the next phase would be the research and early discovery. Here, I guess there can be multiple use cases in research and early discovery with respect to like extracting the scientific knowledge, with respect to the science. the time a particular scientist take to get to the molecule that will actually cure a particular disease. At this point of time, scientists basically spend an enormous amount of time only extracting the scientific publications and the trials data. So this is not only an arduous process, but I would say this leaves them with inaccurate or maybe even incomplete data set to work with. But with the power of ChatGPT, GPT can basically elevate all of these burden by analyzing the unstructured or maybe the structured or maybe the images, text, all of these data sets, and can help them with what they actually need. So basically, think of it as a Jarvis to any particular scientist. So all of them are Tony Stark in their own capacity for sure. But I would be honest here. There are already, I would say, natural language models at play. First, there is BioGPT, which was generated by Microsoft. Then there is the MedPalm, which is generated by Google. While both of these do have certain capabilities and they are doing a much uh, greater job, but all of these have limitations, I would say. BioGPT has very narrow scope on the data set that it has been trained upon. And I would say it is not capturing all the pharma value chain at this point of time. Then there is the case of MedPalm, which is, I would say, it is only a question and answer tool at this point of time. It is again not capturing the entire pharma value chain, and the accuracy issues are huge at this point of time. So how Gen AI can make them better is that by providing them with a broader training data set. At this point of time, they are only trained on textual data set. So what happens now? They can be trained on, let's say, your sonography. It can be trained upon an X-ray. So that actually gives the broader training data to the model, and it can help uh, basically increase its capability multifold, I would say. Then there is the case of domain-wise fine-tuning. The domain-wise fine-tuning along with the guardrails are a very important aspect of training any particular model. They can be tuned with domain specific knowledge. Let's say they can be tuned with respect to any HIV drug, with respect to any oncology specific drug, and the compliance that comes with an oncology drug is quite different with respect to what an HIV drug would look like, right? So they can be domain specific trainings, they can be indication specific trainings, and hence it can basically improve the time. I would say the it can improve the efficiency in which the drug is brought to into the market. Next is clinical development. So, in terms of clinical development too, there can be multiple use cases. Like the co-pilot that I was talking about, there are multiple regulatory authorities involved during a drug development, during the clinical development phases, or maybe the trials that is happening. So they always want uh, quick responses with respect to any particular disease area or any particular drug from the pharma companies. And these are basically known as HAQs. HAQs are basically health authority queries that is being asked by the feds at this point of time, and the pharma companies have to respond to them. But with respect to Gen AI, we cannot only answer the queries that has been asked, we can also predict the queries that will be asked with respect to any particular molecule. So that in that way, we will have unmatchable speed with while doing any particular clinical trial, or while a drug is going through a clinical development process. So next up is operations. On the operation side, I would say that most important aspect of the pharma value chain is the quality assurance. And with respect to quality assurance, there comes the deviation management for any particular pharma company. Deviation management is basically how far deviated are the results with respect to what is actually expected. And say, since they must adhere to good manufacturing practices at all times, and there are always stringent regulatory, I would say, requirements at all points of time, at each aspect of drug development. So, identifying and capturing those deviations beforehand is really the most important aspect of quality assurance. So Gen AI can help basically these pharma companies to imagine an end-to-end deviation investigation, and that too at a much larger scale. Right now, it is a very arduous process and it is a manual process, and it can all be automated with respect to Gen AI. So that is on the operation side. Lastly, there is the case of medical affairs. Before we dive into the medical affairs, we should know what is an MSL. MSL is basically medical science liaison. Uh, I would say they are medical reps, but they do not have to sell any particular drug. They are basically field-based scientific experts, and they are employed by the pharma and the biotech companies actually to basically spread the information around the drug. And their primary role is to bridge the gap between different stakeholders, which is the SCPs, the patients, and the R&D, or maybe the strategy department of a particular pharma company. So they, at this point of time, their job is, I would say, involves a heavy manual effort from their end to come up with any particular content to interact with a particular SCP. So they have to search through vast volumes of data and then come up with a particular solution that what we can actually pitch. So what does the future look like with Gen AI at their hand? They can do the rapid content generation, and at the same time, even if they are faced with a particular question, they can be helped by the Gen AI while they are on the call with a particular recipe. So that is the value that is being captured with respect to Gen AI. These are all the use cases that I could come up with. Uh, there can be multiple other use cases there. It is just left to our creativity at this point of time with respect to what sort of solutions we can build. But at the same time, I would like to discuss the challenges that there are with respect to Gen AI. Now, while the promise of generative AI is enormous, but scaling it in pharma is not that straightforward, for sure. There are seven major challenges that I could come up with. First is obviously the data quality and governance. The pharma data that we are currently dealing with is fragmented. It is fragmented across electronic health records. It is fragmented across lab results. It is fragmented across patient level data. And there is always the case of legacy system being used. That is not applicable with respect to Gen AI. And without any clean and standardized data, AI cannot be uh, relied upon, first of all. Second would be the regulatory compliance. See, there is always the case of a country coming up with a new AI act that with respect to AI, we cannot use this, we cannot use that. So all sort of things are there. With respect to regulatory compliance, there is always the case of FDA, EMA, all of these bodies and their regulations. We must navigate all of those rules, and basically if there is any uncertainty, we should stop there and before employing any Gen AI tool. Third is the case of hallucination and accuracy concerns. So there is the case that uh, people in I would say in the industry are trying to solve every day. There is the case of generative verifiers being used to tackle the problem of hallucination. There is the case of chain of thought. Chain of thought now has been improved to I would say graph of thought. So all of these things are in place, but it still hasn't give us a reliable solution to hallucination. Fourth is the change management. I would say there is the data that 70% of the digital transformation actually fail. But with its failure, uh, we cannot rely on Gen AI to save a particular patient life. So, and all of these failures happen because of the cultural resistance, not because of the technology. So Gen AI is no exception here, I would say. Fifth is the cost of scaling and infrastructure. See, we cannot provide all of our data to ChatGPT and ask for a solution, right? Because all of those data sets are proprietary. All of those data sets are quite personal, can be quite personal to a particular patient, right? So the cost of scaling and infrastructure building and taking it all in-house is actually a challenge for any small scale company. So that is obviously a hindrance. The sixth one is the talent gap. There is a, I would say, shortage of Gen AI experts, and then there is a shortage of Gen AI experts who actually understand both the technology and the pharma domain. So obviously this is a hindrance. And finally, the IP and security risk. The as we already discussed that we cannot train it on proprietary data, like we cannot provide our data to ChatGPT. Even a single table would basically mean that we are hampering a particular identity, right? So any intellectual property leakage, and there are always the case of cybersecurity vulnerabilities being happening. So even if we do provide the data, we don't know that LLM will use it for something good, because in the next question that a particular person asks, it can use the data provided by you. So that is obviously a challenge. And while we have already discussed all of these challenges, with this I would like to close out my presentation. It seems like uh, I would stop the lecture. I would like to interact with you guys. I would like to open the platform for questions.
Yes, so we have some people raising their hands. Arya, please.
Yeah. Hi, Aniket. How are you?
I'm good. How about you?
Oh, I'm good too. Yeah, I was reading a study by Gartner that said that in the year 2025, around 30% of the new drugs that will be discovered will be attributed to AI in some way or some one way or the other. So we are already
Mhm.
living the AI era in pharma.
Yep.
But a possible issue that can happen, from what I can gather, is hospitals usually don't share the data, maybe because of patient confidentiality or some other issue. So how would
Mhm.
pharma industry come to know early on if the AI discovered drugs are as efficient as they were in the clinical trials or not?
Good question. I guess this is a very natural question that should come into mind with respect to what you have learned. But I would like to give you some reality check over here that even if we are saying that 30% of the molecules will be discovered by AI, it is not actually the case because there is always the human oversight in play, at least at this point of time. And with respect to the data that you said, there are multiple types of data involved while we are discovering a particular, I would say, molecule which will cure the disease. They are very proprietary to a particular pharma company. They are not provided by the hospitals. They multiple studies are conducted over the years, or maybe some trials, errors, all of these uh, with respect to any particular molecule. Even if you see there is the case of a particular drug which was first discovered, was meant to cure schizophrenia, but what it actually did was it reduced the weight too, and it then was not approved for schizophrenia, but then it came into market as a weight loss drug, right? So all of these, all of the data set that proved all of these does not come from the hospital. It actually comes from the insurance companies. Insurance companies sell their data. There are always the case of EHRs, the electronic health records being maintained at the doctor ends, and that particular data is also uploaded for the, I would say, the IQVRs or maybe some other data uh, providing solution companies. So the data is not a problem. The problem is that at this point of time, even if we are uh, trusting AI with the molecule discovery, there should always be a human oversight at play. So yeah, that's my answer. I
Thank you
would
for
like to
answering.
study that particular report, and maybe I can get answer it better then.
Yeah, thank you. I missed that insurance company data part.
Yeah.
And you said that there are humans in the process. So you mean that humans are involved in the process of discovering the drug, or you mean that human in the loop part, which the AI, generative AI industry generally has?
See, whatever I am talking about at this point of time, there was always human oversight in play. There was always humans involved in the drug discovery. It is not a particular AI till this point of time. So let's say from 2024, it actually started. They actually started discovering a particular molecule. So what happens is that with Gen AI, we can basically predict the next molecule with it is basically based on tokens. I would say the tokens that we have already provided it with. So let's say if I provide ChatGPT with a sentence that predict the next word, this is how it actually works. That I am sitting on a fill in the blanks. So basically, it will come up with bed, it will come up with chair, it will come up with table, or maybe some these sort of things. And the same thing the same structure is being followed while they are predicting a particular molecule. So let's say if we already provide them with certain nucleic acids, or maybe amino acids, they can predict the next set of amino acids and basically run the trial with respect to what that particular amino acid can do and cannot do with respect to the historical data set. And there are millions and millions of I would say amino acids at this point of time which is at play, right? To help with all of these analysis, there comes Gen AI. With respect to, there were always the models, there were always the AI models which would predict the I would say the molecules. But since we are in the age of Gen AI, the input data set can be text, can be sonography, can be images, like uh, all of these things, and hence they can better predict the next molecule. So this is I would say, the whole process that is being followed to discover a particular molecule.
Just like the example you gave of
I
Tony Stark
hope.
using Jarvis to discover new element. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. What happened with Tony Stark was that he always relied on Jarvis, right? Like, do an analysis of these of all of these things, and then come up with the actionable insights. That is a reality now. That every I would say the scientific leader would be powered with a technology like Jarvis. Maybe not as smart at this point of time, but yeah, it will definitely get smarter.
Point in the future, maybe.
Yeah.
Thank you for answering.
Thank you.
Uh, Hey, am I audible?
Yep.
Hey, hi, Aniket. That was a really great session. So, as you
As
mentioned that AI is not really Gen AI, we cannot really just plug and play into the system, and there has to be a set of architecture, for data governance and the intelligence layer that you talked about. So, I
hmm.
wanted to know from your experience, so what is the biggest roadblock that you feel uh, we get while integrating Gen AI into the existing system architecture?
Okay. That's a really good question, first of all. The thing is, with respect to the architectures that should be in place, uh, yes, Gen AI can handle the unstructured data set too. But the thing is, at this point of time, if we provide it with those unstructured data set, we cannot rely on the results that it will generate. So, do you understand? There is always a case of providing it with any particular data set, even it being unstructured. But since we are dealing with patient lives, since we are dealing with, I would say, yeah, obviously the most important is the patient lives, right? So since we are dealing with the most important aspect of life, we cannot rely on the unstructured data set that has been provided. So the thing is, those unstructured data set has to be in compliance with uh, there should be some sort of compliance that we should build before basically providing it as an input to the Gen AI. So I hope I was able to answer your question.
Yeah, right. So you meant like if we provide unstructured data set, that might lead to data hallucination, and then there might be some errors in the results that we get, right? So
Yeah, that is the case.
that's all.
But even if even if the unstructured data set. Yeah, correct. And there might be some errors with respect to hallucination for sure, but even if we provide an unstructured data set, at this point of time, there are multiple, like say, electronic health records. But that is ChatGPT, maybe some other AI tool does not understand that particular table well at this point of time. So a business intelligence layer is obviously needed. Even if you provide ChatGPT with a particular table or maybe text, it will actually perform better on the text and not on the table. It performs at this point of time worse, I would say, than a human. So that is why we basically need to build an intelligence layer in between, which will basically translate all of those data sets. What ChatGPT should understand, or maybe an AI model should understand from that particular table, and then we can basically trust it with the results.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, Aniket. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, you touched upon how AI or Gen AI could help during the development process. However, I was just wondering for some company like General Electronics Healthcare, where they are into healthcare, but they build equipments, health equipments like X-ray machines and all. So during when they are about to discover what could their customer profiles be. So, for example, it could be hospital or medicine schools. So, what
Mhm.
is the application for Gen AI or any such AI systems would be, especially in pre-sales and delivery, be it in medicines or medicinal equipments?
Sorry, I didn't get your question. Or maybe
Um,
my.
I was just wondering about the application of Gen AI
Mhm.
during pre-sales and delivery of pharmaceutical products and healthcare machineries.
Right. So yeah, that is a great question, and I we actually discussed this in the PPT as well. I guess it was not that much clear at this point of time. At that point of time, during any particular sales process, you would need vast amount of data at your own hand so that you can deal with uh, any particular company or maybe the products that you're selling. You need to know about the products. You need to know about what is the competition that you are actually facing, right? All of these sort of things need to be analyzed before having that particular call with let's say a prospective buyer, right? So, and these sort of data sets that should be analyzed is being done manually at this point of time. Manually, as in there are humans at play, which basically analyzes the data for you, and then the insights are there with you so that you can drive the sales, right? So, with respect to any pre-sales that you would be conducting, all of these business intelligence reports can be automated with respect to GenAI. And you can basically have a chatbot answer those questions for you. So let's say if you want to know what are my competitive drugs at this point of time, right? So and what are their market share? It is a simple question, but it can be answered directly with respect to uh, Gen AI with the help of Gen AI using a chatbot. So this is one particular example.
Got it. Understood.
Okay.
Okay, so I think there are no more questions. So on behalf of the Alumni Committee, I would like to extend our heartfelt thanks to Mr. Aniket for taking the time to join us today and share his insights. This was very interesting and very fun to listen to. Your experience and perspectives on how Gen AI is transforming the pharmaceutical industry have truly broadened our understanding and inspired us to think about healthcare and technology in new ways.
I would also like to thank Mr. Professor Manish Popli, Chair, Alumni Affairs, for his continued guidance and support. A special thanks to Alumni Committee, whose efforts behind the scenes made this talk possible. And of course, a big thank you for our wonderful audience, your active participation and engagement. For your active participation and engagement. We look forward to welcoming you again for the next session of Wisdom, the Alumni Talk Series. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. And it is always a proud feeling for any alumni to come back and contribute in any sort. So this was really well organized. So I'll thank you the thanks the professors first, and I'll thank the all of you guys, the alumni committee, and it was really nice interacting with all of you guys. You asked some really insightful questions. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Aniket.